Valorant, the CSGO Fireball Simulator, aka one of the hottest competitive games going today. They dropped a brand new trailer for Premier Mode, the new team-based competitive mode that is bridging the gap between the game and its competitive esport environment, as it enables you to create a team and take part in weekly matches and skill matches, whatever you want to call it, to potentially take part in tournaments to prove your status as a top team in your respective skill division. Now, Riot are also eventually introducing the pathway to pro circuits within challenger leagues, which will replace qualifier tourneys and directly connect you to Premier to have basically a straight pipeline to international leagues and championships if teams have the medal. Now, Premier is coming in beta very soon, which will be actually Act 3, Episode 6 in Valorant, which is a couple of months away. So, thoughts on this? Because I think this is personally a huge change for just the competitive scene and the competitive structure in general for games.
Yeah, this is really really big. It's just the main thing is just they're making it accessible.
Yeah.
It's never been easier. Well, once it releases, it will never be easier. Like if you like, there's no restrictions to like having to sign up. There's no gatekeeping. There's no like you don't have to be in an early established community. There's no. It's like you load up Valorant and there you go. There is your shot. There is your chance. And it's like you you can do it whenever you want. You know.
Yeah.
I think that is literally, I don't think it's ever been done before on this scale anyway. Um,
No.
so I'm really really happy and excited to see what this brings.
I think it's super interesting because like it's something that's not really exactly what you said, something that's not really done and we haven't ever seen. And it's so cool to think that like back in the day when I used to play like Overwatch competitively, I actually stopped playing Overwatch competitively because I was on console. Like I used to get on comp every day, like grinding, trying to get better. And like I remember sitting there and watching Overwatch League and thinking to myself, man, they're all on computer. This is I'm like it wasn't that I was dreaming of becoming a Overwatch League player, but I thought to myself like if that's not the end goal, why am I trying this hard? Like I was giving up way too many hours, and I think it was for the better. Like I realized like I got more time back out of for my life. But it's just funny to think like now you can play Valorant and like let's say you're really good and you're doing things like you're just like wow I'm really good. I might actually be able to make it right. Like you might actually be able to go from like just playing ranked with your boys and then realizing you have this raw talent to being on the main stage and being like yo I'm here like this is like that's kind of that's like every kid's dream because it's like
Yeah, and that's literally how it should be. But there's such a disconnect
yeah.
in these games, like that make it super hard. It's like if you are in the top 750 players in Apex Legends, there there should be, incentive for you to continue to play the game outside of just getting a special badge every season, you know? It should be a thing. There should be a ranked mode, and then there should be something like Premier that, is just an entry into what comp will be like. I feel like more games need to do more to actually support their scenes. And
Yeah.
it's mind-boggling to me that there isn't anything like this.
You want to know why? You really want to know why? You want to know the reason, right? You
Go
do?
ahead.
Because esports organizations, especially Western esports organizations, are stupid as shit. Let me clarify. There is an orientation or a belief, a mentality that content around competition, especially esports competition, is more lucrative in the long run than the actual, thing in and of itself, the system. They think content around it and having the buzz in the short term is
Mhm.
more fruitful than actually nourishing the system itself. When you look at stuff like what's it called? How they did the COD rebrand and everything, how all these brands like Complexity got bought by a team, they had to go relocate to another location, how all these other things, got patterned out and Optic Gaming became Optic Boston or whatever town that they're settled in right
Yeah.
now. Like how all this thing spread, the reorganization it doesn't feel like there's a connection directly to how COD is. It's disconnected for one. And for two, to speak on the content thing, a lot of these organizations who are competitive by nature and started as competitive groups, they are more keen on signing people who have clout and who have some standing from a social standpoint and will, again, just help things move numbers rather than actually push competition, rather than actually bring up people who are competitive in that space and need to be put on a higher platform to show how skilled they are. They're not bigging up their stars. They're showing the most relevant thing on esports I've seen probably like in the past couple of months was Scump retiring. Scump's been in the game like 15 years, and I barely know any other name besides that. That's that's a problem.
Touch on. I was like they invest so heavily into these players, but it's just like these players are not gonna live forever. Like I tweeted the other day. I was like, franchising is literally the worst thing to ever happen to esports.
And I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad at certain franchising thing, but it's just like there's no active pipeline to build more people to franchise.
Okay, top orgs in the world, yeah. Give us your millions, and everyone else, lol.
And
your clips on Twitter.
Facts for nothing.
That's literally what it is.
Like
it's really sad.
The game is flipped. Like I was literally talking about this with my boy off podcast. We were like, bro, the way competitive scenes die is by straying away from what made them in the first place. I mean, that's how most things are, but especially with a competitive scene, you need to focus on the game, the experience, the actual competitive structure of what you're doing. What Valorant's doing is one of the most important things for esports, I think, has potentially ever been done. Keeping purity on the sport, longevity in the sport. If you can create a consistent pipeline of stars, teams, moments, and all that stuff from within your system, you don't have to have some false, you don't have to have some external league. You don't have to have billionaires or content creators or streamers come in to boost up your organization and buy stocks and buy shares in your stuff. If you can naturally bring some organic interest from within your system, you create a pipeline and a pathway that will consistently generate new teams, new stars, new people to root for, new tactics, new moments, new everything on every level of your competitive circuit, your competitive system, every single level. You'll create interest from everywhere. And consolidating that is such a big key to why Valorant will last much longer than a lot of other esports, and get not even last longer, but have much more consistent buzz and vehement support.
Like
it's value
invested in it because you could literally see some of your guys that you went to school with on the big stage. Like it's that simple now.
It's the accessibility, it's the consolidation. It feels simpler, it feels holistic. The people that were packed out in the stands for a Valorant event the other day, I saw it on Twitter like a couple of days ago. They were packed to the rafters. You know what I'm saying? Clapping the foam finger, or the foam, you know what I'm saying, the foam sticks, you know what I'm saying, in the Valorant thing. If those people in there, the most vehement supporters, can have access to that system, that only makes your support for that game and involvement and engagement in that game only that much higher. Because think about how many people who are in the stands who didn't have any registration forms or didn't have any signups or didn't have a coach or anything like that, or whatever process to get to the esports process.
To most esports. I don't blame people at all for not even.
Facts. The barrier to entry in the system is too high. For a lot of different esports. So it's like you're cutting off. It's like you're cutting off your livelihood. Because at the end of the day, the teams you have currently in rotation, they're only going to get older. You know what I'm saying? And then the pipeline might not be as fast for people to replace players and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, you're stuck with the same teams. You're stuck with the same names. You know what I mean? Like, there's not really that much variety. You might get a new star or two or whatever, but the system that cannot produce how things are in a lot of different esports. The system can't produce enough longevity and involvement within the game itself, within the structure itself, to support it. And I feel like a lot of esports have gone away or they've lost sight of fixing their structure and making their structure as accessible and as fruitful as possible to generate natural interest on the sport and not the content around the sport. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
who was it? Faye Sensei or Faye somebody? I can't remember. He was on a podcast and he was talking about, hey, we signed like Lil Yachty to FaZe. What is that? How does that help us whatsoever? How does that really help us whatsoever? Yeah, if we get a little buzz, cool, but that's not really what we're about.
Oh yeah, FaZe Rainer. Yeah, I remember.
Thank you, FaZe
I
Rain.
saw
Thank
it.
you, FaZe Rain. Yeah. I couldn't remember which member, but yeah, he was like, yo, what does this matter? Like, that doesn't really help us, bro. He just comes up there and we're just sucking up to him because he's a little yachty. That doesn't really help us at the end of the day. And I'm not saying they're they do have esports. I can't remember off the top of my head, but stuff like that where it's like you have owners like a you know what I'm saying, like a Tim the Tatman or something like that, like where maybe the ownership and the viewership, actually the viewership is predicated on his presence and not the sport itself and not the team itself. That only detracts from what you're trying to do in the system. You know what I mean? Like, I say all that to say this. Esports has a lot of work to do if they want to last and they want to keep growing. Because you see with all these layoffs, you see with all these different organizational changes and whatnot, and just scaling back of teams and all this other stuff, that it's hitting a wall. It's hitting a wall, and they need to focus on the sport structure of it. Valorant is doing Valorant is doing something that's very, very big. This should and probably will be a commonality with a lot of different esports in years to come. If it's not already present somewhere else, which I highly doubt, this will become a common occurrence in years to come. You gotta create that bridge. You gotta create that bridge and create that system that at least shows you, hey, there's a pathway from this game. If you really want to get involved with this game,
Yeah,
everybody
I
can
that's
see
the
it plain as day.
main
The
that's the literally
visibility.
thing. It's like there is a chance. There's so much like inspiration that can be built up inside of someone once they once they find out that they have a chance.
Mm-hmm. And it's not even the fact that people and it's not just the people that build the inspiration to play. It's the people that play casually, but they see people at the top level and they enjoy it as a pastime. If you boot up your game and see, oh, Premier Mode's right there.
All right, cool. Look, here are some matches that you can play with people in your skill rank, and it will give you that same feeling.
Mhm.
Like there's what people are asking for
Facts.
from things like Apex ranked. It's like there should be a mode that allows people to participate in the same game styles that they watch professionals play at. Like it's literally, it makes so much sense that there's no other way I can explain it. It's like if you watch something and you enjoy it, you should be able to play in a similar style.
Mhm. I hear it.
Come on, people. It's
Yeah.
not rocket science.
And again, this is I really do think it goes beyond just the playing. You got to create the ecosystem, man. It's creating the ecosystem. That's what creates longevity. That's what creates success. That's what creates a FOMO feeling. There has to be some type of system there that people want to get into, that you see evidence of, oh, that person started there and they ended up on nationals, or they ended up on internationals, they ended up at championships or whatever. Oh, I muted myself for a second. Let's go. They needed that clear pathway of, I've seen it done. Every time I boot up Valorant, I see Premier Mode, and I see, oh, from those Premier Mode matches, the season ended, but those people that came from Premier Mode, they're going to championships. And when I'm done playing the Valorant game, you know what I'm saying, when I'm done playing the game, I'm gonna turn it off and go watch somebody who came from Premier Mode actually compete. You know what I'm saying? It's just
like it's like now, like when they scale it and they figure out what they're doing, they can do localized tournaments. They can get people out of their houses. They can get people socializing and meeting people. Like you said, it's building an ecosystem, and it's not hard to do. Especially, well, like, all right, fair enough. This is right. We're talking about they have more than enough resources to do it, but from a lot of like game devs and studios that are doing this shit, like it's
who've
not
had tenure, who've had years to really be on, to really just be here and figure out what's going on. They, from my outsider's perspective, if I can't see what's going on from if I can't name you, you know what I'm saying, a couple different stars off of a team. And again, I'm not saying I don't pay the most attention to it now, but if I'm a casual gamer in that lane, like I can tell you, I can name off like right now, you know, an Imperial Howl, a Sweet, an NRG, or whatever from the Apex side of things. If I don't have that visibility to people's stars, the ecosystem, how the game's competitive scene works generally, I feel like I'm not as connected to it. There's a disconnect between how the structure is and what people can enjoy for a lot of different esports. And I feel like Valorant is shaping up to make the best jump to have the best esports community and structure that we've seen in gaming history. And this is something that people should probably follow suit in the near future, like as soon as possible. This is something that will take Valorant, it will extend Valorant shelf life by a long time. And you'll see. It might overtake a lot of different esports. It already has. But with this mode and how it's going to be set up in the ecosystem, it's going to be poised to take over a lot of different esports across the world and a lot of different markets with how they're setting up now.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited to see how it works and the opportunities that it brings for people. That's a really, really great move from Riot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to see. I would love to see them implement something like this. I don't know if League already has something like this. I know they have something called Clash, but I don't really know what that is at all. But like even just like seeing this from like if you're playing Apex, like I just seeing the thing is like moves like this are kind of like Apex getting a ping system. It's something that is so like fundamental
Yeah.
that people realize was missing that it might just become like a snowball effect, and we will see this happening more and more.
Yep. 100%. It's for games that are free to play and things like that. Now the community is key. You can't just get on, play a game, get off, and expect people to, you know, stay engaged all the way through. Now you need everything on deck. You need as much cohesive elements in an experience as possible to keep people engaged and keep growing. That's why a lot of free to play things are under scrutiny now. It's like, yo, what incentive do I have to keep going here? That's why things like, you know, the skill gap, all that stuff. But when you have all those intangibles and have those boxes checked, beyond that, it's what can you do to bring the community together even more. That's what that next step is, especially for free to play multiplayer games. What's that next step to keep the community on their toes and together? And meshing esports is a really big positive for that box to be ticked. So yeah, that's solid. And I must end this note off with, I don't play Valorant for a single day in my fucking life. I play Valorant like 4 times. I'm ass, bro. I don't play Valorant, but they're doing good stuff here.
Like scaling it. Like Valorant is definitely much easier to create a system like this than League of Legends. When they finally do release, was it Project L?
Yeah.
When they do release Project L, I think that would be perfect. Like, I think it suits that style of game more than Valorant.
If they get that system, if they test it in Valorant and put it into Project L and it booms in Project L, they're changing everything esports.
Because there's no money in the FGC competitive anyways, if I'm correct.
That might be changing as well, though.
Yeah, Capcom did put $1 million on the Capcom Cup, but generally, across all esport, across all FGC
it would
stuff,
go from how many major FGC tournaments is there in a year?
It depends on the game.
Yeah, it might depend on the game. Outside of there's a few different ones.
Just going from what they've done with like League and Valorant, there would be like 4 minimum a year, you know? It would change like that.
But the issue with it is I don't think that it's not that I don't think it's plausible. It really, the FGC is weird. Like it's so old school and a lot of it's like mentalities and like it's just this is a whole topic for another day. Kind of a conversation, but like the things that work for esports when it comes to shooters doesn't necessarily translate too well when it comes to fighters. And I think that's just because of like the ecosystem in and of itself. Like I don't think it's as big as a shooter ecosystem. Because like think of all the friends that you know play Apex Legends. Now think of all the friends that you know play fighters. Right?
Yeah.
Like
a lot more niche.
It's a very, very fair point.
Yeah. So like I think like don't get me wrong. I think what you're saying has validity, but like I don't know if like Project L will take over the fighting game market because
Mm.
it's such a weird market in and of itself. Because like some people who like those two, like the assist fighter, the Project L is going to be. Some people are never touching that because they're like,
Yeah.
I'm a Tekken player. I only want to play these kind of games. It's such a weird thing, but it is a great conversation.
Yeah, it is. It
Word.
is. I'm
But
just
yeah.
I hope that across the board this just sparks like
Yes.
a whole lot more of like accessibility to and
Yeah.
like easier path to pro.
I think that it will in Project L. I think that Project L for sure will have that in there, and I think it is an amazing. Like I completely agree with that. I think it is an amazing feature to have in that game. Now, will Tekken and Street Fighter pick it up? That is something completely different.
That's a
you know?
that's a legacy. That's a legacy
Yeah,
thing.
that's that is a different ball game because those already like set in their ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because sometimes like even like games like Street Fighter Online is not the same as Street Fighter in person just because of the way online works
Yeah.
in and of itself. Like
Yeah.
that, it's almost
That's-
almost like they're not even on the same like esports plane. It's like
Yeah.
a weird
That
weird
takes-
thing.
That takes systemic change for them
Yeah.
to like really address having more consolidated systems. But for again, for games like shooters, for most shooters and stuff like that, not really that much of a problem.
Yeah, I also think like the FGC is just more of like an in-person kind of like thing
Sure.
in general.
Yeah.
Like I think, and I don't think it could change. I don't think that that's like a bad thing. I really would love for it to change because there's ways you
Yeah.
could do a lot of cool things online. But it's just one of those things where it's
Yeah.
like
the ethos of it has always been in person.
yeah, that's kind of like how the community has been because they started off such a wild time ago. But again, different conversation for a different day.
Yeah, but yeah, again, just to wrap it up. Yeah, like it's Valorant really could have one of the most game-changing systems of the past, like 5 years. Honestly, like this could be something that changed the landscape, especially within esports. This could be that thing that is another it's another big bang for esports.